Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be having a look at a brand new Switch case from WaterField Design, specifically this bugger. Now, long-time fans of the channel will know that I have a bit of an affinity for WaterField cases because they don't look like gaming cases, and there's part of, sort of a security thing about not wanting everyone to know that, oh, look at me, I've got an expensive Nintendo Switch, and also it's just stylish. Like me. So if they've released Switch cases before, what's different about this one? Well, it's got a very different form factor, as no doubt you can tell, and that's because they've kind of rethought the whole caboodle. Understandably, most Switch cases hold the Switch as it is, but unfortunately, as you can see here, this just isn't really quite wide enough. I mean, maybe if you squoze it in, but let's not do any squozing. Instead, you're expected to remove your Joy-Con from the side and just put this in the front pocket, as you see me doing here, like this. Is it actually going in? I hope so, because I don't want to drop my Switch. Lovely. Now, you might be thinking, well, that seems a little bit pointless. Why don't they just make a longer, wider one? And that's because they already have. But to be honest, it is quite a bit wider, to say the least. And, it's a little bit impractical in its design. I still think it's really good, but I can understand why some people would think that it's a little bit long, a little bit flexible. This is the City Slicker, by the way. And by doing this, it generally makes it a bit more like a camera bag, really, because you've also, of course, you've got, if I can find the zip, you've got a great big pocket inside as well with little dividers and stuff like that, because if it was just that, it would be a bit silly. And you know what? You can fit an absolute arse ton of stuff in here. It's called the arcade case because it's designed primarily to be used with this, the Hori Switch stand, which is still the best Switch stand available. I don't like just quite how chunky it is, but nobody's come up with anything better. And so basically this just slips in the back like that in those lovely pockets, and you got space for, well, your Joy-Con, obviously, they go in there, so let's just slip those suckers in there. And then you've also got a socket. Well, a socket? What am I talking about? Ugh. What I meant to say is you've got another pocket in there to put whatever you like in there. Maybe you want to put some extra Joy-Con, maybe a Joy-Con grip. The world is your oyster. Or at the very least, this bag is. But to be honest, as much as I love the Joy-Con, the whole point of this is to try and give you a bit more of a sort of a comfortable setup using the stand, rather than just using the Joy-Con themselves. So, can you fit a Pro Controller in there? Well, yes you can, but to be honest, considering just how chunky this sucker is, you have to basically remove the stand as well, meaning you're kind of starting to lose the point of the whole thing. I mean, you can use the kickstand on the back of the Switch, but does anyone actually use that? I mean, it fits, but it basically takes up the entire back pocket. But if you just so happen to have maybe a smaller Pro Controller-like controller, try saying that 5 times fast, it slips in just nicely. And of course, you can get the stand back in there as well. And there's still loads of room. This is an 8BitDo SF30. FC30. Okay, so right now I've got the Hori stand in there. I've got the FC30 Pro from 8BitDo. I'm going to stick a couple more Joy-Con in here as well. And you know what? I'm going to top it all off to make sure that we've got loads of juice by sticking an external battery in there as well. And I reckon that closes up just nicely. It's a lot of stuff. I didn't actually put a cable in for the battery, but it'll fit, it'll be fine, I promise. But you know what the most exciting thing about all this for me is? Taking all this stuff out as well, I can put everything that I need in here in order to play the Switch docked on the go. This is primarily thanks to one of these. It is a dongle dock adapter. I don't know what they're actually called, and this is the Spans one, the actual good one, before they changed the design like a bunch of morons. So I've got my Switch in the front pocket here. I'm also then just going to put in this little dock adapter in there like that. I'm going to put an HDMI cable in as well, because that's pretty important, to say the least. Let's also put in this little trivet that I use, this little folding trivet. Basically, it just allows it to have some airflow underneath, rather than being flat on a surface on its back. It's smaller than a stand. I use it. So let's just slip that in there as well. I could do this far, far better. Also, the inevitable power supply, and this is the UK one, which I'm pretty sure is the biggest thing in the world. Second to none. So let me just wrap this sucker up like this. There we go. That goes in there, and then it just slip that in there like that. I just realized you can't see that. It's all off camera, but it's all in there. And I'm also going to chuck in some Joy-Con. 1, 2, and maybe this controller as well. Just slip that in there. And it's a little bit of a squeeze, but it's all in there. And to be honest, you know, sort of some of the stuff I really don't need. You know, it's all just additional stuff. So honestly, I really, really like this case. There is only one problem that I have with it, and it is unavoidable. I really, really don't like the fact that the Switch is held in this front pocket just by a few magnets and a flap. It just doesn't feel very secure. I can just see somebody, you know, a pickpocket or anything like that can see that. It looks like an expensive case. There's going to be something expensive inside. They go up and they just slip their hand in. Done. And that's a bit of a worry. Thankfully, I am very, very cautious about how I carry my electronics and things like that. I'm always very wary to keep them at the front, so for me, it shouldn't be too much of an issue, but you can be certain I'm going to be keeping an extra close eye on this, because I can't afford to lose my Switch. I think the issue is that the magnets are hidden inside the fabric, meaning they don't make proper contact. If they were like these ones on the City Slicker, you can see already, it's much harder to get them apart, and I think that would be a better way to do it. It's just, you know, a little bit tougher, you're more likely to notice, and it's all the more secure. And, okay, it is harder to get them in, but it's more secure. I did try putting the Switch in the back of the unit, but it sort of moved around a little bit too much, and there's no protective layer, because there is this lovely protective felt on the inside of here to make sure your Switch is nice and clean. But even so, overall, this is a lovely case, and I think it's probably going to become my go-to case, because as much as I love the old City Slicker, it is a little bit long, and this is just overall, I think, a little bit more compact, a little bit more sensible, a little bit chunkier, a little bit fatter. Massive thanks to WaterField Design for sending this puppy over. If you want to pick up one for yourself, you can check the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you wrap up that subscribe button in leather, and be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.